I'm so excited to be joining you here live today, and we have a gorgeous guest here, Anya Razina. G'day, Anya.
Hello, thank you so much for having me. It's such a pleasure.
Yeah, so we have just finished 5 days of the Video Marketing Summit for 2021, and it's been like 5 full days looking at different video strategies and really learning from the experts. And everything so far has been, okay, day one, everybody's, has got 24 hours access to those. So this is the first time during our summit that one of my guests has joined me live. So you're kind of special, Anya, because you're, we haven't done this beforehand. We've had that kind of, nervous thing that you have about, is the software going to work? Are we both going to turn up? Have I got the right times? All those sorts of things that go with doing it live, but that brings a beautiful energy to it as well, don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that this is one of the most powerful and beautiful things about live video is that partly you make yourself vulnerable. Like you just show up, you don't have an opportunity to take a second take or edit things out. And if something happens and it's not necessarily as planned or as desired, you just have to deal with it. But at the same time, that builds authenticity, it builds trust, it creates this very unique interactive experience between you and your audience. And I believe that that's the most powerful thing about live videos today.
Yeah, it's one of the things, and I do want to say to everybody, I can see that people are starting to join us, so it's just so beautiful to see you. Now, we are being omnipresent today. We are in numerous places. We are in the Facebook group that people have been using, for the Romance Your Tribe group, and that's with the summit. People have been going live in there every single morning to help you with the day's speakers. And we're also on my Facebook page. We're also over on YouTube, where I have no audience at all, really. So it'll be very interesting if anybody turns up from there. But the nice part about being everywhere is I can actually see your chats. And Anya, can you see the chats as well?
Yes, as a guest, I can see the chats. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so using this software Restream, and we're going to give you a sneak peek soon so that you can actually see, under the hood. We can see all of your chats. So what I would love you to do is, if you're here live, type in, say hello, tell us who you are and what it is that you're really hoping to get out of today, because we're going to try to make sure that we can help you as much for everybody that's turned up live. And for those people who are here in the recording, tell us a little bit about yourself as well, because I love seeing these chats come through. And also give us some love hearts or whatever it is. Throw us some love, because it is sort of pushing ourselves out of our comfort zone going live. So that's the nice part about it as well, is as well as us being kind of a little bit vulnerable, because if you stuff up, you can't do, as I have done numerous times when I've been recording for the summit, when I've started talking and I haven't had my coffee for the day, or it's my 3rd interview or 4th interview in a row, and I say somebody's name wrong, or I say my name wrong. Yep, done that as well if I've got really tired, and then I've just started laughing and had to stop. You can't do that. So there is that. So you get that lovely vulnerability, but you also get to feed off the energy of everybody. So I cannot see anybody typing in. So I would really appreciate if you could do it, because then we can show you the cleverness that we've got here. So Anya, today, now I've invited Anya for 2 reasons. One is because she is like the person who took me through how to use Restream IO when I was thinking about using it, when I was looking for a solution. And also she works with lots of influencers, joint venture partners, helping them to be able to do it. So what could be better than having both sides? So I've got here, I just want to say hello to Sabrina from Canada, and you've really enjoyed the summit. That is so good. I have heard nothing except positive. I'm just so happy about that. And Fade, g'day Fade from Real Women Global, empowering women, totally identifying with the stuff up moments. Yeah, Fade and I have met years ago. I was actually a speaker at one of Fade's totally retro things that you do, which is actually having an offline event like a conference. So I was a speaker at one of those, and she did such a brilliant job. But Oh, yes, of course, if I can check these on here. That's right. Thank you. See, as Anya's just sent me a little secret message. Yeah, so, but so you know what it's like to stuff up, except you're doing it in a room full of people. Here we go. Craig, g'day from Melbourne. And we've got Taramis here. Trying to learn more. No questions yet. You have got to connect with Deborah. She has got the most interesting niche. If you ever think about how do you create an imaginary world for games and books, she's your gal. And hello, we've also got Monique. Oh, from Dublin. I love this about online marketing, and this is another lovely thing, isn't it, Anya, with the live streaming, is just being able to connect, from all around the world. I love that sense of community that you can get. And I'm sitting in my spare bedroom. You're sitting next to a Christmas tree. So,
my little bitty friend on all my live streams here. Yeah, it is kind of funny, interesting and ironic almost, right? At the times when the world is self-isolating, something like live streaming can bring us together. Here I am basically in the same room with someone from Australia, and we are just going to have a fabulous conversation about something that matters to all other people who are watching us from all over the world. So this is amazing.
Excellent. So we're going to dive straight into talking about like live streaming and working with influencers. Now, I know that you've got a slide deck there, and this is the software that we're using is Restream I. I've got a really good link for you so you can get $10 off. And people who are in the who've upgraded to the super bundle, Anya's organised, and we've got the links within the members area. So you can actually try the full thing, the whole pro level. You get it for free for a month. So that's what I've been doing. I have been making the most of it, and I've already signed up. Forget it. I'm in for life with this one. So let's go and dive into that. And so we're going to just share these slides. So I'm just going to click this clever button. And we're on, baby.
Awesome. Perfect. Yeah. So a couple of things that I wanted to show you guys is basically one area where I have quite a bit of expertise, and that's kind of a combination of live streaming for your brand, for your business, as well as how to leverage influencer marketing in conjunction with live streaming, like how you can combine the two worlds together. So basically, that's why this session is going to be called How to Build a Live Streaming Strategy with Influencers. So just a couple of things about myself and like why you should care about things that I have to say. My name is Anya, as Janet mentioned, and I have been with Restream for about 3 years. I'm currently head of influencer marketing at Restream. And in the beginning of this year, we did not really have an influencer marketing department or team, so to say. And fast forward to December, I'm now managing a family of more than 500 opinion leaders and content creators, absolutely brilliant marketers, social media strategists from all over the world who have brilliant communities and who teach other people how to utilize content, live video marketing, and other amazing things like that. I'm also a host of a couple of live shows on Restream. I have my own show called Friday Lives, where I interview content creators about all aspects of live streaming, and I co-host our bi-monthly Q&A sessions with head of customer success, where we just basically go live and let everybody who is part of our community to ask any questions about Restream products, and we respond them live as they come in through the chat messages. I also oversee the entire ecosystem of live video content on all Restream channels, which is over 200,000 followers among YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. So I have quite a bit on my plate, but the interesting thing about this is that I am a brand myself, right? As a Restream, I am a business, I'm a software as a service, and I'm a brand that is trying to connect with entrepreneurs, with social media strategists, marketers, business owners, corporations, and all kinds of people who could utilize the power of live video. And at the same time, I'm an influencer manager. So I talk to people who are content creators themselves, looking to get sponsored, looking to help out other brands with the awareness of their products. So first, I'm going to start with the perspective of brands. And those little logos here that you're seeing are all these magnificent people that are using Restream today in order to power their live streams. You can see there are a lot of different companies. Some of them are gaming, others are kind of international corporations. And of course, there are a lot of other small businesses and private life coaches, trainers, educators, instructors of all sorts who utilize the power of live to connect with their network and to deliver their very important message to as many people and viewers and listeners as possible. So when you think about live streaming and influencers, there are several misconceptions and myths that I like to bust, just because you always, when you think about live streaming or when you're thinking about building influencer marketing strategies, there's always 100 reasons why you shouldn't do that, right? So I'm just going to give you a couple of examples that I'm hearing quite a bit of, and that completely were not true for me when I started building our influencer strategy. So one is influencer marketing is only for B2C brands. So unless I'm selling shoes or purses, like no one is going to work with me because influencers is for those retail things, right? This is not necessarily the case. Actually, software companies and B2B companies can benefit big time from working with opinion leaders, because today we are selling on the social web, right? It's a completely different universe compared to 10 years ago, and especially 20 years ago. So you do need to partner with people who form opinions and who influence others. You need to find those experts in your niche in order to be successful. So consider that myth not being reality, and definitely have a look at that, especially if you're a B2B or SaaS company. A lot of people also think that if I start creating live content myself, this is going to be an overkill. I'm going to dedicate a lot of time. I'm going to have to turn into a live video producer. I'm going to have to learn so many different skills that I don't have. And it's just going to completely consume me, and I won't be able to do the rest of my work, which might be creating a wonderful product or creating wonderful courses or teaching people to do something amazing. Again, this is not necessarily true, because there's so many different tools, including Restream, that can help you to get up to speed and start live streaming in a very easy and short period of time. So you don't have to be a professional video editor in order to start your live streaming series. Another couple of things that I hear quite a bit is that there are no influencers that will work with me because I'm not a Microsoft or I'm not a big company. Or even if I find some, it's going to be very difficult to measure the results of their work. The return on investment is going to be difficult to capture. So while it is not a trivial task to understand what kind of influencers you want to work with and how to capture and understand the results of their work with you, it is definitely possible, especially if you set up clear goals of what you're trying to get from those relationships. And I'm going to break that down real quick in the future. But before we get there, I am going to actually close my presentation for just a second and show you how easy it is to get started with your live streaming strategies just for yourself, just to start your live streaming series. If you are a brand, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a small business owner, if you are an instructor or a course creator of any sort. And there are so many different other applications, such as if you're a priest of a church, if you are a fitness trainer, if you're a politician trying to work on a political campaign, local or, on some kind of like a more federal level. So there are so many different people and industries that could benefit from live streaming. But I'm just going to show you how easy it is to get started, even if you know nothing about live streaming. So here we are at the Restream dashboard. And as Janet mentioned, we do have some special promotions for participants of this event. And we also have a free plan for people who just want to kind of give it a try and get started. So the initial investment of understanding if this is your thing is pretty low. So once you start, you basically will start with this ability to add your channels. So you can add a lot of different channels, as you can see here. The most popular ones are on top. You have your Facebook Live, you have your YouTube, your Periscope, which is Twitter, your LinkedIn Live, and several others. So it is a very simple process. You just click on the channel that you're interested in adding, and then it's going to connect for a second, and then it's just going to be like, okay, so would you like to connect your personal profile or Restream page or something else? And you're just going to save it, and here you go. Now you have this Facebook page added, and you can do the same for many other Facebook or any other social channels. And once you're done with the channels where you already worked very hard on building your audience and network, you can enter Live Studio, which is the space where we are right now with Janet. So I'm just going to mute myself here real quick. And here is basically your very simple setup of what you can do in order to start connecting with your audience and start your live streaming. So you have a couple of very simple buttons here, like microphone. You can mute and unmute yourself. You can turn off your camera. You can share screen, is something that I'm doing right now. You can invite your guests, actually up to 10 people, whether those are your co-hosts, experts, panelists, any other interesting people that you would like to have a conversation with. Interview is a very popular and easy way to start your live streaming strategies because you are not necessarily needing to prepare a lot of content yourself. All you need to do is to think about who could be a good guest that would be interesting for your audience and what kind of questions you would want them to ask. And here you go. In just 30 minutes, you can have a great conversation. It's going to be very natural and organic. It's a lot easier than to create content solo. So that's definitely something that we recommend considering. And then there are a couple of like very simple settings where you can select your video and audio inputs. And we also have these local source files. So if you want to play a video that is on your computer, you could use that little button right here. Other than that, you have those chat messages, just similarly to Janet showcasing the comments that were coming through. You can do that with the comments from your community. There are also captions. I think that they're really helpful because they kind of help you to have a little flow of your conversation. Like, hey, we're going to talk about this. We're going to have this call to action. We're going to have this, moment when we say, hey, follow us on Twitter. So this is just the list of captions that you can prepare in advance, or you can create one on the whim and just say, hey, you know what? I really want to create a brand new caption as I'm talking. And here you go. You get one just here. With graphics, you also have a lot of opportunity to kind of like play with things. You can create overlays. So those are the ones that we have kind of like prearranged, but you can customize them by designing them in any graphic designer from Canva to Photoshop. There are pre-roll videos that you can play. Again, those are the standard ones, but you can have something about your work, something about your guest, something about your company. And you can also have backgrounds, like if you are removing your video, for example, then you can have something that's going on. Like this was my guest, for example, today. So let's hide him. And the setup also allows you to select the title and the description for your video, and also make sure that you're going live on the channels that you are interested in going to. Because, like, for example, for me, I have quite a bit of channels. So sometimes I want to go to one group of platforms, and sometimes I go to another. All Restream live streams get recorded in this video storage space. So everything that you have ever done, you can always find in the recording. So here are all my sessions, all my live streams that I've done in the past 30 days. And you can also schedule them in advance, which is a very important feature, because if you're thinking about creating a very important event or conversation, you want people to know about it in advance. Like, for example, this is the one that I'm streaming on Thursday. And I already created a thumbnail for it. I'm going to be interviewing people from Elgato, and I already have everything ready, and I'm already seeing that some people are right here. You can see 9 people are waiting. So those are the people that set the reminder, and I know that they're going to be coming to my session. So that's very, very helpful for people to kind of get a feeling of where you're standing in terms of the audience and the expectations. So that's a quick tour for the studio. Let's get back to my slides and talk a little more about influencers, because everything that I showed you earlier is about live streaming your own content, right? And it does require a little bit of preparation, a little bit of thinking in the direction of okay, so this is what I'm going to do. But you do not necessarily have to do that in order to create some live presence for your brand. And one of the ways to do it is to contract others. And this is what Restream has been experimenting with in 2020. And this is kind of little insights and finds that we were able to understand. So contracting other content creators in your space is a great way to scale your streaming program. No matter how good and how passionate and how amazing you are, there's only that many hours in the day for you. And there's probably a lot of things that you have to take care of and think about. So when you work with, let's say, 5, maybe 10, maybe more content creators who can make live videos for you, promoting you, mentioning your products, talking about things that matter, sharing some industry news and insights, you are immediately getting a lot more presence in virtual space by not doing much, but just connecting with those people and kind of setting up the goals and building those relationships. Speaking of relationships, there are different kind of relationships that you can build. Of course, you can always sponsor somebody. If you find somebody big and famous and influential, most of the time they would want some kind of a compensation for promoting your brand. But you can also create pro bono relationships, which means that maybe some people are already loving your brand or used your service and had a great time with it. And they would genuinely want to share it with their communities and with their networks. So that's a great opportunity for you to either ask them to do that in the format of live video, or to offer them something extra for free. For example, say, hey, we're going to give you this 1 year of Restream account so you can live stream to all those social media platforms at the same time. And in exchange, we would love for you to create a little tutorial video when you explain how to use our product in real time. So those are relationships that you can explore and think about within your current ecosystem of partners. You can also support streams that other influencers already have. For example, if someone is streaming a live show that is very relevant to you, for example, let's say you are offering yoga classes and there is somebody who has a huge channel that is talking about yoga, that is talking about meditation and practices, you can connect with that person and say, hey, could you mention my studio or my classes or my work? And I will sponsor that. So like you mentioned us in the beginning of your live shows. Or alternatively, you can say, hey, would you be interested in streaming your shows on my channel? So that way your expertise and your knowledge gets shared with my community and my network, and you get extra exposure. So that was something that worked really well for us. And those relationships were just working out amazingly, because it's a clear win-win and mutually beneficial type conversation.
Can I
Sure.
just, if we can go back to that slide before, I just got a few questions to ask you, because this is one of the areas, you've covered those 4 areas. And yet this is the area that I find people can do this exceptionally well, or they do it exceptionally poorly. And so I just thought it'd be worth having a little bit of a discussion around this, because this is the typical. So you've talked about, inviting somebody else to come on and be your guest. So you get them to, and ask them if they can share, which is basically saying, hey, tell everybody about me, let's promote it. You could pay, paying each other. You could be paying basically advertising. And then the other one that was interesting about them streaming through your platform. The thing that I find when people are first starting out with this, especially when you put in that situation of, okay, I'm a bit small, people may not be interested in me, is I find that a lot of times what people will do is they will come in cold, because I get these invites a lot, and I've worked with a lot of people over the years to help them to be able to use relationships to build their business. And the big mistake I see most people do is they will come straight in with what they want. And so they will send an email going, hey, I love what you do. I've got this awesome opportunity for you, which it's not that awesome, really. Like, how awesome is it for me? So it'd be good to have a little bit of talking about, if we can just chat between us, like, how do you approach an influencer when you are really, I always think of them in terms of power dynamics. And when it comes to business, the person who's got the power is the person who's got the customers or the potential customers. So if you do not have a big following, if you don't have a big brand that people know about, you've got very little power in that relationship in which to negotiate. And yet you're going to people who already have a lot of power in relation to you, in terms they've got the customer, they've got the audience, they've got the reputation. So what do you suggest people do in order to be able to, I guess, narrow down that gap?
Yeah, that's a great question. And you made a lot of great points. If you are coming to an influencer or opinion leader from the position of like, hey, I need this, go do this for me right now, that is not going to work, clearly.
Yeah.
First of all, you need to understand what kind of people would be relevant to you. So if you just message Elon Musk right now and say, hey, why don't you just, stream your thing on my channel? I have 200 followers. Like, is that cool? It's probably not going to happen. So you need to kind of at first understand the scale that you're looking at. If you are a really small company, a really small entrepreneur, or a small business, and you're just kind of getting started with this, well, maybe don't necessarily go to like Neil Patel level of marketers, and start with someone who is smaller, who maybe has a couple of thousand followers, but who is passionate about what they do and who is very relevant to what you do. So, for example, if you have an event that is kind of like around social media marketing or video marketing, and you have someone who is kind of like more established in that same video marketing space, I can guarantee you that when you reach out to them and say, "Hey, I'm doing this thing. I really love your work. I really think that we connect, and we speak the same language. We're on the same page on a lot of things, how we can like see marketing work. I would really love for you to be a guest on my podcast, or I would really love for you to maybe stream that same show that you're always streaming on my channel as well, so my community could also participate and like ask your questions in real time." A lot of times those conversations, as long as you don't come off as, "Hey, I need this, like go do this for me," a lot of times people will be very willing to be like, "Sure, yeah, of course, let's collaborate, let's work together." Another important thing is, of course, it has to be a two-way street, right? Like you have to offer something in exchange. If you do have a budget and you can support and sponsor those people, well, here you go. That's the exchange. You create content on my channel. I pay you $1,000 a month, for example, for you to do that. If you don't have the budget for that, then you can have something else that you can offer. For example, if you are creating events like this one, you can say, "Hey, I would love to invite you to my channels to be my guest, and I will give you the ticket to Video Marketing Summit, where you can participate. You can be a guest speaker or something like that." So definitely think through like what kind of value proposition you are coming up with, and start with the kind of like assess fairly the level that you're at today. For example, for Restream, we have 3 million users already, right? Like we're relatively established company, and we have a pretty well-known brand. So when I come to certain influencers and I say, "Hey, we're Restream. I know that you're creating content, and we would love to collaborate on tutorial videos or feature reviews with you," most of the time people know exactly who we are and what we're offering, and they're like, "Okay, so this is going to be interesting for my community. Yeah, so I can do that for this much money, or I can do that because I'm really interested and I would like to have your account, like your premium plan for a year." So, and as you grow, you will be able to build that leverage, and you'll be able to build that opportunity and ability to say, "Hey, I'm building this. This is in the sphere, in the area that you're interested in, that you're working in. So let's work together and let's support each other." So that's the type. That's how I approach those conversations at least.
Yeah, I think they're really important, and to give people some insight, because with the summit that I have been doing is an example of working with influencers. And a lot of these people, I've built up relationships over years, and they have been all started with, "What can I do to help you?" So always start with, "What can I do to help you?" So you don't go, "All right, I've got a restream happening next week or the week after, I'm going to contact them." No, you start way ahead. You may start weeks, months, years ahead. This is like any relationship. You're not going after a one-night stand. You're going after a relationship here. So
Exactly.
that getting to know them can be as simple as just, sharing some of their content, putting intelligent comments, not fangirl stuff, intelligent comments on what they're doing, getting their attention, giving them feedback. What is a way that you can do it? So it can be by sharing their content. If they're content producers, they want to get their content out there, help to share it. That is number one. But you need to be organized about this, because you start to lose track of who have I contacted. But the most important thing, and this is what's worked for me and what's worked all the way along, is when you've got that power dynamic, you're going to feel that difference between the power with money. Like you said, can I be paying you if you've got that budget? If you don't have the budget, or you're not sure if that's the best investment, well, you've got to make up that power in another way. And one of those best ways is if you create some kind of an event. In this case, I've done a summit that's taken me 6 months to organize. Like, that's a big event, but it doesn't have to be that big. But
Exactly.
You do all the work. You make it so easy for them to turn up. You're the one that organizes all of the website, you write the copy, you do any sort of images, you do absolutely every single thing you do. So they've just got to turn up. So that's one way that you can actually reduce that power dynamics by, all right, well, I'm bringing to the party here an opportunity. I'm creating a platform. It might be a little one yet, but hey, I'm going to do all the work. So it's not really a big deal for you. So I really just want everybody, I mean, what you have put there is absolute gold. And I didn't want to fly past this because this is the spot where people are going to stuff up. They're going to come in wrong and you know, they'll come in going, I've got such a great opportunity for you, Anya. You really, really should promote me because this is so cool. Yeah. Nope. Okay. Yeah. Thank you, my darling.
We get a lot of that, actually. It's really funny because sometimes people would reach out to us and say, hey, we are a small startup in, let's say, audio editing space, right? And you guys are a live streaming platform. So we have 2,000 users. Would you like to have a co-marketing campaign and cross promote? And we're like, well, this is lovely. We absolutely support and adore, but we have 3 million users. So we don't quite see how that would be a fair promotion. And it's important to also understand that most of the time, what I would do when I get this kind of requests, so to say, or offerings, I always say, well, okay, so this is probably a little bit too intense for us, but we can do something else instead. For example, we can give you an exclusive promo codes that you can spread out around your community, or we can create a piece of content. For example, we can write an article where you guys provide most of the copy when you talk about audio and like the importance of audio and live streaming. And we like mention you in that article and we publish it on our blog post because it's good content for any creator, right? That they would be interested in reading this. So there are a lot of different things that we could do. And then as you guys grow, once you become, you know, an established company or bigger, build bigger community, then yes, we'll definitely consider and we'll see what we can do in terms of cross promotion. So there's always room to kind of modify, so to say, the offering and the ask when you're talking to big influencers, medium-sized creators, as well as micro-influencers and opinion leaders in your space.
Yeah.
Just a couple of case studies here. So one of the things that we've been really successful with, almost to my surprise, because I was not quite sure what I was doing when I started this. My first idea was like, okay, so I'm just going to sponsor all these great people who know what they're doing. They have communities, they have social media following. And then those people, those influencers started to tell me, hey, I have an idea for a show on your channels. You guys have significant following, you have brand recognition, and I could stream a show on Restream channels. Would you be interested in that? And at first my reaction was like, well, I don't know, I guess maybe it's weird that you show up on my channel. But then when I thought about this more, I realized that, well, that's actually a great idea. If I have someone who is extremely knowledgeable about how to be confident on camera, or someone who is extremely knowledgeable about how to search engine optimize your content and specifically live content, or how to build your YouTube channel from 0 to thousands and thousands of followers, why not let them on my channels and like, why not let them create that content for my community? And we started with just a couple of really very kind of trial and error type shows, and with like really small creators who were not very popular, but they were willing to kind of experiment with us and kind of like listen to our guidance and get our feedback. And today we are looking at about 9 at this point, live shows that happen every week. These are regular weekly shows with big content creators and medium-sized creators who basically share their expertise as they go live on their own channels. So this is part of their typical kind of live streaming series, right? But they also add Restream channel. Luckily, with something like Restream, it's very easy to do, as I showed you earlier. And they stream that content to us. And so what happens is they mentioned that those shows are powered by Restream. They share, unique codes and things like that. So like, hey, if you guys want to try, if you're interested in exploring Restream, here's how you do that. But at the same time, they just share their expertise, their knowledge with their own community. And we're just adding on to that by giving them extra exposure and also sharing their knowledge and expertise with people in our community who are interested to learn about that. And and we try to make them very diverse. As you can see, we have like different types of shows. Like some talk about how to be confident on camera, like I mentioned. Others like literally geared towards live streaming as a service. So for example, if you want to become a remote producer and you want to create live shows for somebody else and get monetized like that, so basically sell your skill to run live streams, like you're doing right now, Janet. Like if you were like, hey, you know what? All this like 50 businesses that are right around me that I can like throw a rock and probably hit, I could do a live streaming sessions for you every other week or once a week, and like this is going to cost this much. So we have a show that is dedicated to that, and there are several other topics that we're covering. But yeah, those creators are absolutely brilliant. They're doing what they already do for their communities, but they also include Restream, and we support and sponsor them to do that. Plus, we give them that exposure, so it's definitely a win-win because it's quite a bit of work on their end to put those shows together. But it's also amazing for us because we don't have to do that. So yeah, that's
and it's very leveraged for them because it's not as if they're only going to the live stream, the Restream audience. They're also going to their own audiences. So they're creating content for their own audience as well. So if they're going to be doing it, this is just, it's loaves and fishes. So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
And then here's the beautiful part that I don't have a slide about, but I'll still share. The beautiful part is that then after live streaming comes repurposing, right? So both Restream and them can take that piece of content that they already created naturally and organically for their community, for their social channels, and turn that into a podcast, an IGTV video, descript it and create a blog post about this, turn it into a mailing, an email list where you say, hey, I actually had that talk and I have this great episode on Restream channel, so you can check them out on my channels or on this channels. You can create little bitty video clips if you really like dropped some amazing knowledge bombs in the middle of your live show, or you guessed it if you're an interviewer. Then you can create that like 1-minute clip and put it on all of your social media, from Twitter to Facebook to Instagram. You can create a story, an Instagram story based on like a little piece of your live stream. And there's so many different tools that make it stupid easy to do that. And then it kind of like the ball keeps rolling, right? Like, so we continue to repurpose that content. They continue to repurpose that content. And that work that they put in all of a sudden makes sense because it gives a ton of return on investment.
Yeah.
So finding the right influencers, question that I get asked all the time. Okay, so I'm ready. I got it. Like, this is great. Where are they? Where do I look? Where do I start? So it's a very common idea, basically very similar to what you were saying, Jen, earlier. Like, how do I not come off as a strange person? Like, should I like bombard and spam people on LinkedIn? You can start with your own network. As counterintuitive / obvious, I guess, as it sounds, a lot of us already we all have influencers or opinion leaders in our network. So even if you're a small startup with just a couple of hundred of users of your product, even if you are a coach that has a mailing list of maybe 200 emails, you already have some people who are riches in the niches, right? Like, they are already somebody in their area of expertise. So you can start with that network and see like what kind of things you can do together, how you can support each other and collaborate without necessarily going outbound right away. So that's one thing that I always recommend people. Before you go out, before you reach out to these big YouTubers, look at the people who are already following you, who is already there, because you might be really surprised about who you will find out. I always like to prioritize quality over quantity. It's better to work with 5 amazing, dedicated, passionate, and enthusiastic influencers who really care about what you have to offer, who are willing to promote your brand, and whose community cares big time about what they have to say, versus 5,000 people who are kind of sort of thinking about you as like one of the 50 things that they have to do and consider. So quality over quantity when it comes to influencers. And the biggest isn't always the best. I know when people think about influencers, they're like, okay, I need people with millions of followers. Not necessarily. A lot of times for us specifically, we are having a lot of success with people who have 50,000 followers, 10,000 followers, sometimes 5,000 followers, but that are very dedicated and very specific. Those are content creators. So those are marketers who are exploring live video, or those are people who are turning their podcast, which was audio only, and adding on the video element to this. And Restream is a perfect solution for them. And people who are teaching or educating or inspiring those people are not necessarily the biggest influencers in the world, but they're so in tune with what we do that they are the best influencers for us and for our message. And coming back to that return on investment question, a lot of people are like, oh, well, how do I measure that? You can measure that only in case you set clear goals. So if you are like, hey, I'm going to just collaborate with everybody and just work on anything, your ROI is going to be, well, everybody did everything. And that's going to be very, very, or something or nothing, right? And it's going to
Yeah.
be very difficult to measure. So it's very important to you to say, hey, I want conversions from this relationship. What I really want for you to do is to share this promo code, and I want to see how many people will sign up. Or you can say, hey, I don't care about conversions. I know that you're creating a fabulous content. You're amazingly entertaining. You're funny. People love you. People are super engaged. So all I want from you is exposure. I want you to mention my brand. I want you to wear my t-shirt or whatever. And this is all I'm getting from that. And then that's what you are tracking later on. You're just seeing how those partners execute on the results and all the specific goals that you set for them. And don't try to put everything in there. Just figure out like what is the most important thing for you today, and partner with people who are most comfortable and capable to execute on those specific goals. So that was our biggest finding, because at first we were like, all right, yes, absolutely, any option would work. Yeah, we'll sponsor your show. We'll do this. We'll do that. But what we learned is like, hey, you need to be very specific, like what you want from this. Otherwise, it's a disappointment for both of you. The influencer will be like, well, I worked so hard, but I tried. I mentioned your brand all the time, and you're like, well, but I'm not getting any signups for them. Well, you didn't tell them that you want signups. You told them to mention your brand in the beginning of your show. So yeah, that's just something.
A really, really good point, because a lot of times people will just kind of do the whole spray and pray when it comes to using media and like, getting people, it could be if you're used to doing a podcast that you're not really thinking about, well, why am I doing this anyway? Rather than, well, seems like a great idea. Now, I just wanted to pick up on one thing that you said there before, because this was actually something that was brought up by one of our speakers in the summit. You talked about quality over quantity, and you mentioned one of those being you're not necessarily going to get the better result by having somebody that's got like a gazillion followers. That's the household name. You may get a much better result with somebody that may have only 5,000 followers. And for people who got to listen to day 3, I think it was, with Charlie Vailer, who was talking about podcasts, because he sees all behind the scenes. And for people who've got the super bundle, well, you've got it anyway, so go back and listen to it. One of the things that he was saying is that people make a big problem when it comes to podcasting, because this is a very similar strategy, is they will really try hard to get the biggest names that they can get. And then they may get a lot of downloads for that one episode, but it doesn't carry through. You're not getting the objectives of it puts your show on the map. And the reason is getting super clear, like just what you said with the return on the investment. If you're expecting somebody who's legendary to be promoting you and to be getting you opt-ins and those sorts of things, they're very likely going to say no, because there's the power imbalance again. So, being clear with them that really what they are about is a draw card. But then what he does, which I thought was very clever, and we can do this with what you're doing here, is when he's got the replay, he runs Facebook ads, and the audience that he's showing that to is he's just doing a Facebook ad only targeting the audiences of that influencer, because they're big enough that they have an audience, they create an audience. So it means that you might pay $50 to actually get your message in front of their market anyway, without them having to do that. So you can they don't have to know that, okay, I'm going to be advertising this to your followers and I'm paying for that, because you could be doing that anyway. So you're not trying to expect them to do that for you. You can do it yourself.
Yeah,
you can do it yourself.
Absolutely. I mean, you think about, those biggest and most powerful and popular influencers. I've been researching all kinds of people. Trust me. Like I just have a ton of numbers in my head, of what costs what. A 30 to 90 second integration on Joe Rogan podcast, which is of course, top of the line, costs $50,000. So think about it. Is that something that you want to invest? And do you think that his audience, and he's huge, of course, do you think that his audience is the exact target audience for your product? Or you would spend a fraction of that cost on someone who is having a podcast about how to become a professional live streamer, or how to utilize live video as a marketing tool. So just think about, if you're a Restream, for example, right? So like think
Yeah.
about like what would give you more interest, engagement, return on investment, someone who is massive and who costs a lot of money and who like casts that net so far, so wide, or someone who is much more focused on something that you are trying to offer and talks to people who are exactly your target audience and prospect customers.
Yeah, and I think it's really good to be clear here. We're in this discussion where we've got two different things we're talking about. We've got one where somebody else has got the Restream platform, and then you're looking at how you can actually get in front of their audience. It could be a guest or it could be marketing, paying them. The other one is where you've got the Restream show and you're wanting to bring influencers on so that hopefully they will bring their audience and their love and their and do it. So they're two very different ways. Craig's got a good question here is, what if you fail with your KPIs? How do you recover the relationship?
I was looking at that question thinking, this is so amazing. I hope Janet will pick it because I can't. I'm a guest. Like, I'm so used to being a host and like just completely manage all this thing.
Yeah.
I'm so happy that you picked it. Yeah, Craig, this is a great question. So I'm assuming that you're asking from the perspective of the influencer, like, so for someone who was delivering the KPIs and you failed, and correct, feel free to elaborate on that and correct if I'm wrong. So if you are the one who did not deliver, so to say, you said, hey, I have this great show, I have 500 people watching me every day, and you'll have like at least 10 people per day signing up for your product, let me promote you. And then you start and then nothing happens, and then the brand comes in and says, hey, so it's been a month, we like paid you, and like nothing happened. So what you do in that situation, what at least me as a brand appreciate, is transparency, definitely, and honesty, and just being like, hey, I understand that what we talked about and what the expectations that I set did not happen. So maybe I'm not going to charge you the full price. Maybe I'm going to give you another 3 months and try to promote you because maybe I just need a little bit more time to warm up my audience to your product. Or maybe let's just have a call, sit down and think about how can I do things differently? Maybe the way I promote your product, maybe I say, hey, Restream is a great tool for professional video producers who work on TV channels like Fox News or whatever. But it's not. It's actually a very consumer-oriented product. This is the democratizing tool. That's something that turns everybody into a live streamer. You don't have to be a producer. So just think about the messaging. Maybe like there's some things that you can tweak and work together. But be sure to come out and offer all those things and say, hey, I realized that what we discussed did not happen. I realized that my performance is not at the level that you expected it to be. And I guarantee you that 99.9% of brands would be extremely open to conversation, and you're not going to burn the bridge with them.
Yeah.
And if you're asking from the perspective of brand, like if I work with somebody and I'm definitely seeing that they're not performing at all, and they're kind of not necessarily realizing that, so to say, and they think they kick ass, right? What I usually do in that situation is I just say, hey, we really appreciate what you did. It was absolutely amazing. We're not going to continue the project right now because we're kind of like working in different directions and trying to invest in other markets. But here is a free account for 1 year. Enjoy our product. We just want to make sure that you don't have any hurt feelings, no strings attached. We want to make sure they have positive relationship with us. And if you have any other ideas of how you can help us, hit me up. I'm here for you. So that's how I approach those conversations. And that's
really good advice.
It's not uncommon. Remember that this is not an extraordinary situation when you said, I'm going to deliver something and that didn't happen, or when you paid for something and didn't get delivered. So treat that as, work in progress. It's part of life. That's okay. And just as long as you're transparent and having an honest conversation about it, you are going to continue partners.
Yeah. And so Craig's said here that, he's screwed up where he just didn't get the number of guests. So somebody was, he was the person that was delivering. And, I totally get that. And, and I love that you said about the transparency, because a lot of times you feel, if there's been an expected return and there's there's been some kind of contract, whether it's even verbal or whatever it is, there is this, and there's also that pride of, yeah, man, I delivered, I am good. And then it doesn't work. It's just really good to be transparent and say, you know what, let's try to work out together what went wrong.
Yeah.
Because you just, like, I've had a challenge here with the summit. We originally were going to be in the first week in November, but it turned out to be the US elections, and we did not know what kind of fallout was going to happen as a result. So we thought, not a good time to run the summit. You know, won't get anyone's attention. So we moved it a month. Hello, Halloween and Black Friday, like really, really difficult. So I've just had lots of conversations with people going, you know what, this is, what do you think? This is a challenge, you know? What can we do to adapt? What can we do to make it work? It's just being really honest with people. And that very often, Craig, is enough to keep that relationship strong.
Yeah, absolutely. There are so many cool questions here.
It's great because Craig's obviously taking action. So that's when you start to have good questions, when you're actually, you don't wait to get it perfect. You're actually just doing it. And then you go, oh, okay, now I've got the questions. So over to you, baby. Is there, was that the end of your slides? I just didn't want to cut you off in case we.
No, that's basically everything I wanted to share in that kind of live streaming versus building those relationships with influencers. So yeah, the key takeaways are going to be, number one is you can start live streaming yourself. It's not difficult. If you're using something like Restream, you can get yourself up to speed relatively easily. And the whole goal of our product was to create an experience and opportunity for marketers and entrepreneurs who are not video producers, and to give them the opportunity to level up their game in video marketing without creating a massive hardship of learning. And number two is you don't have to create content yourself. You can always find people who can do it with you, for you, and in collaboration with you. The bigger you are, the bigger people you will find. You can start small. It's okay. And as long as you're genuine and it's a two-way street, I offer you something great in return for something great that you can offer to me. You can really build on and help expand your network. You can sell your products, you can sell your services, and continue grow your business, your company, your product, your event, whatever that is that you're working on and that you're passionate about.
And I'm like, I hadn't used Restream before, and I'm kind of like really, really challenged when it comes to doing any kind of lives, because our internet totally sucks. Like, it's really bad. I've had a bad experience even just trying to live stream into Facebook. So much so that I did not make regular live streams on Facebook part of my marketing strategy, even though I knew it was probably going to be the best one for me. I couldn't do it because I just end up looking really unprofessional. Rob, who I always say Rob's last name, too many syllables, Belasabas. Anyway, Rob.
Yeah. Rob Belasabas. Yeah, he's one of those influencers. Yeah.
Oh, he's lovely. So he introduced me to Anya, saying, look, you know, Anya has got a great program, plus she's also going to be able to give good content, which you have, like, really useful. So I hadn't used Restream until the summit. So I gave the week before the summit, people can probably search and find me going, anybody live, anybody want to help me look under the hood, and just did it live, working it out. I've used it every single morning here and today. We've been able to stream videos in, and then the team on their chat helped me work out why a couple of them didn't work, and it was because they told me straight off, you've just rendered it wrong. This is what you've got to do. Easy. And so, like, the help was there, so much so that I now am going to be making this my regular thing. Like, before I couldn't do it, but because of Restream, the quality is better. We've got the recordings. It allows me to be able to share my screen, share videos, gives me that flexibility. I really, really like it. And it means that you can be really pro, so much so, and this is probably really sad for Zoom, I don't see why I'm paying the top level of Zoom anymore. I'm going to run all my webinars through here and live stream them. So I only need Zoom for meetings with clients and friends. So I'm just going to use Restream. So that's the decision that I've made this week, because it's a really, really good program. So
thank you so much for saying that. That means the world to me.
Oh, look, it's just like I'm never going to go. I'd never recommend things unless I've actually tested them and used them myself. And so, yeah, I'm a total fangirl now, I can tell you. So I've got here using captions, which I actually set up when you were teaching how to use captions. I just did that. So I've got that $10 off Restream, which is romanceyourtribe.com/Restream, and our members in the, I keep on forgetting the name of it, the super bundle. Anyway, the whole upgrade, you've got a whole month where you can test out like everything, and that allows you to be able to go into groups, Facebook groups as well.
Yes, absolutely. Pages, groups, personal profiles, anything on Facebook.
Yeah. Actually, Craig's got the same thing. Yeah, you cancelled your Zooms. Sorry, Zooms. Well, I did all of my recordings of the summit on Zoom, and because they just got hammered because of the lockdowns, the quality of the videos were really variable, which was really embarrassing when you're doing a video summit. And I just have this last question here for you because I'm aware of our time and I want to free you up. So Craig's been using it with Otter AI. So we use Otter AI as well as a way of getting our all of our captions done. We can't connect them though, can we? There's no API thing to connect them, is there?
I was just actually looking at Otter, and I was just kind of like making sure that that's what I was thinking about. Yeah. So right now they're not like connected, but it's actually a good idea. It's a great point. I will let our business development team that might be, something worth for us exploring in terms of partnering and connecting with Otter. But
I would do it. Zoom does it. That I'm no longer going to be with. But exactly. That's a good idea, Craig, because that saves that one extra step. Yeah.
We do have a feature called RTMP Pool, I believe, so you can actually take your video from anywhere, like Zoom, for example, or I'm assuming Otter as well, and you can actually pull it into the studio. So the video coming from Zoom becomes video in the studio, and then you can do all these cool things like captions, like overlays, like comments from your chat that you can lay over like on top of that video. So I'm assuming that with RTMP Pool, you could potentially do that as well from like any encoder. But yeah, that's something worth checking. So stay tuned for that, or reach out to me at anya.razina@restream.io and just kind of like remind me about this, and I will connect you with the right people. But I definitely will let our business development people know that, like, hey, you should look into this, guys. Maybe there's something we can do.
Yeah, I think I can already see that your team is really, really responsive. So thank you so much for your time, Anya. It's just been this is my favorite topic, actually, is working with influencers, because this sounds like really totally daggy, but it's basically doing business with friends. They're just not your friends yet. And I just find if you're really passionate about what you're doing, people who are influencers or, have built big brands, they're passionate as well. They connect with your passion. And that's one of the big things, is really just sharing that with them. And it's so good that you get to connect and make friends with people who have that same passion as you. For me, that's one of the big reasons to do it. So I've got to enjoy your company, Anya. Thank you so much for today. And thank you, everybody that has turned up live here. I am looking forward to hearing feedback on what action you take. If you're signing up to Restream, are you going to have a go? Awesome. Come and share it with us, and what's working for you. I'd really, really love to hear that. Thank you so much, Anya. And thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much for having me. It was such a pleasure.
Okay. Bye.